My husband pressured me into pregnancy, ghosted me through every doctor visit, and when I asked him to feed our daughter, he gave up and moved away. Jack and I have been together for 6 years, and I am 7 months pregnant. He was a family friend, someone my aunt recommended to me. At first, I only went out with him to make her happy, but we ended up getting along really well and said I love you to each other in just a week of meeting, and the day we found out somehow made my heart even fuller. I was always scared of seeing the 2 pink lines, but in that moment I knew we had done the right thing. That same day, we spent the entire afternoon sitting on the couch flipping through a baby stuff catalog, lightly bickering over whether we wanted the cot to be pink or purple. We both had huge smiles on our faces, and I could practically feel the joy radiating from him. Or so I thought, because the very next day, not even 24 hours later, he completely switched up. In the morning, as we lay in bed together, I playfully asked what we should name our child. He didn't even look up from his phone. He just shrugged and said, "Dunno." Luckily, the hormones hadn't kicked in yet, so I was able to chalk it up to morning grouchiness. But as the weeks passed, things got worse. There was no single thing he said was crazy enough to make me think he didn't want this. It was more like dozens of moments that planted seeds of doubt that would all replay in my mind every single night. He didn't even repost the photo of the positive pregnancy test that I tagged him in, and he stopped posting photos of us too. Fair enough, I thought at first. Maybe he just didn't want to attract negative energy or jealousy. Oh, how wrong I was, because that's when the pregnancy hormones kicked in, and I began to spiral. I couldn't hold in my concerns anymore, but he'd just blame it on work burnout, or even better, a result of all his mental energy being put into chess. So as I threw up into the toilet each morning, there was no one holding my hair. As I lay awake in bed each night, completely exhausted but filled with insomnia, I should have been holding my husband's hand, but instead, I was wondering when he'd get home from hanging out with his friends. But the most painful memory isn't even a pregnancy symptom. It's me begging my husband to help me, to please just spend some time focusing on me. I would spend hours every day thinking about the right combination of words to finally convince him, but I was never successful. I remember one time, I was lying awake at 4 a.m. when he finally got home, and I expected him to ignore me, but instead he put a blanket over me and squeezed my hand before lying beside me and going on his phone. It was the most affection I had gotten in months, and it filled my entire body with butterflies. Like, a lot of butterflies. Enough for me to climb on top of him and kiss him. Not today, he said under his breath, before lightly shoving me off him and turning off the light. That was the last time I tried to be intimate, because before that, the most he's given me is a hug. I didn't really have anyone to talk to because I didn't know any women who'd been pregnant, other than one, his sister, Sally. We were actually pretty close, so I figured it was okay to reach out. I started the call by saying I was pregnant, and she sounded surprised, like she hadn't heard it before. I asked if she already knew, and she promised she did, so I waved it off. She told me I should let him come to me and just give him some space. So I did, and that's when we went from a married couple to glorified roommates. And one day, as we silently sat across from each other, eating his favorite meal that I had cooked from scratch, he ripped my heart out of my chest. He told me that we had rushed into things, and I should terminate the pregnancy. I looked at him with tunnel vision, struggling to catch my breath. "Are you sure?" is all I managed to say, and he just nodded. We spent the entire night in complete silence, like even more than usual. The next day, I brought it up at my prenatal support group. It was the first time I had talked about our issues, mainly because I was embarrassed. I thought it was my fault. They assured me it wasn't, and told me that there was probably an underlying cause. Perhaps he was protecting me from something that he didn't want me to know about while pregnant, like bad news or something. The new perspective filled me with a level of positivity that I hadn't felt since before getting pregnant, but immediately my joy crumbled, because that's when I got a text from Sally, his sister that I had called. She asked if I could call, and I said I could. She told me that she had just been at her mom's house, and Jack was there too. Sally then said one thing that explained it all. Jack was getting back together with his ex. The only reason he had been in a relationship with me was to prove to her that he could be loyal and monogamous with one woman at a time. And the reason he pushed for pregnancy was only to further prove his point to her. I immediately broke down. Jack, the man I wanted to marry, my baby daddy, my everything, saw me nothing more than a piece of evidence, a project, to win another woman over. I can't tell you how I confronted him in this short video. The full story is on my channel and linked below. That night, Jack came home late again. I was still sitting in the same spot on the couch, surrounded by used tissues. He didn't even ask what was wrong, just grabbed a beer from the fridge and headed toward the bedroom. That's when I finally found my voice. "I talked to Sally today," I said. He stopped walking but didn't turn around. "She told me about your ex, about how you've been using me this whole time." He finally turned around, his face completely blank. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," he said. "That's it. No denial, no apology. Just, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. Like that somehow made it better. How was it supposed to happen, Jack? Was I supposed to have this baby and then you'd leave us both for her?" My voice was surprisingly steady. He shrugged. "I don't know. I didn't think that far ahead. 6 years together, and he didn't think that far ahead." I wanted to throw something at him. Instead, I asked, "Does she know I'm pregnant?" "No," he said, looking at the floor. "I haven't told her yet." That's when it hit me. His ex probably didn't even know about his grand plan to win her back. This whole scheme might have been entirely in his head. I laughed, which clearly confused him. "Get out," I said. "Pack your stuff and get out of my house." "Your house? We're married. This is our house." He crossed his arms like a stubborn child. "The house my parents helped us buy? The one that's in my name because your credit was poor when we bought it? That house?" I stood up, my pregnant belly making me feel stronger somehow. "You have 1 hour." He tried arguing, but I just repeated 1 hour and walked to the bathroom. I locked the door and sat on the edge of the tub, my hand on my stomach. For the first time in months, I felt clarity. This was my baby. Mine. And we were going to be fine without Jack. When I came out, he was throwing clothes into a duffel bag. I sat on the couch and watched him, not saying a word. He kept looking at me like he expected me to break down and beg him to stay. Not happening. As he headed for the door, he stopped. "You'll change your mind. You can't do this alone." I smiled at him. "Watch me." After he left, I called my best friend Melissa. I'd been so wrapped up in my relationship with Jack that I'd barely talked to her in months. She answered on the second ring, and I just blurted out everything. The pregnancy, Jack's betrayal, kicking him out. She listened without interrupting, and when I finally ran out of words, she said only one thing. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. True to her word, Melissa showed up with ice cream and overnight bags. She wasn't leaving me alone, she said. "Not tonight, not tomorrow, not until I felt ready." That night, we stayed up late making lists. Things I needed to do legally, financially, emotionally. By morning, I had a plan. Step 1, change the locks. Step 2, talk to a lawyer. Step 3, tell my family everything before Jack could spin his own version. Step 4, figure out how to be a single mom. I put my hand on my belly and felt a kick. "It's just you and me now, little one," I whispered, "but we're going to be okay." I woke up the next morning with a new sense of determination. Melissa was still asleep on the couch, her arm dangling off the side. I went to the kitchen and made some herbal tea, the only thing my morning sickness would allow me to stomach. While sipping it, I started making calls. First to a locksmith who promised to come by that afternoon, then to my parents who immediately said they were driving over. My mom and dad showed up 2 hours later with bagels and worried expressions. I sat them down and told them everything. How Jack had been acting weird since finding out about the pregnancy, Sally's revelation, kicking him out. My dad's face turned red, and he kept clenching and unclenching his fists. My mom just held my hand and cried with me. I knew something was off about him, my dad said. Never trusted that smile of his. That made me laugh because Dad had been Jack's biggest fan for years, always inviting him to golf, praising him for the smallest accomplishments, but I appreciated the solidarity. "What can we do?" Mom asked, already pulling out her phone to take notes. That was so her, always making lists, always ready with a plan. "I'm handling it," I told them, "but I might need help with some of the baby stuff, and maybe a loan until I figure out the financial situation." I hated asking for money, but pride wasn't a luxury I could afford right now. They both nodded immediately. Dad said they'd pay for the lawyer, and Mom promised to go baby shopping with me next weekend. By the time they left, I felt slightly less alone in this mess. The locksmith came and went, and by mid-afternoon, I had new keys and a new sense of security. Melissa helped me change all my passwords, email, social media, streaming services, even the Wi-Fi. It felt like cleansing Jack from my digital life. That night, I got a text from him. "This is ridiculous. I need to get my stuff." I texted back that he could come Saturday morning when Melissa would be with me. He didn't didn't respond. The next day, I called a lawyer my mom's friend had recommended. She specialized in family law and agreed to see me the following day. I spent the evening gathering financial documents, taking photos of everything in the house that might be contested, and making notes about our shared accounts. My head hurt from all the details, but it felt good to be taking action instead of just crying. Jack texted again around midnight. You're overreacting. We need to talk. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked his number. The meeting with the lawyer Denise was both reassuring and terrifying. She laid out my options clearly. File for divorce now or wait until after the baby was born. She explained how custody would work, what child support might look like, and how we'd divide assets. The good news, she said, is that the house is in your name. And with such a short marriage and clear evidence of his, she paused, searching for a professional term. Deception. We have a strong case for a clean break. I left her office with a folder full of paperwork and a follow-up appointment scheduled. On the way home, I stopped by the bank and opened a new account, then transferred my portion of our savings. Not all of it. I wasn't trying to be vindictive, just what I'd contributed plus a bit extra for baby expenses. The bank manager gave me a sympathetic look when I explained I was separating from my husband. I wondered how many women sat in that chair every week, dismantling their shared lives. By Saturday morning, I was mentally prepared to face Jack. Melissa sat at the kitchen table while I paced the living room. When the doorbell rang, my heart jumped to my throat. Jack looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing the same hoodie he'd left in. For a split second, I felt sorry for him. Then I remembered everything and stepped aside silently to let him in. You changed the locks? He asked, like I'd done something outrageous. You have 2 hours to get what you need, I replied. Anything else can be handled through the lawyers. His eyes widened. Lawyers? Jesus. Aren't you taking this a bit far? I didn't answer, just pointed to the bedroom. He walked past me, muttering something under his breath. Melissa gave me a thumbs up from the kitchen. Jack filled 2 suitcases and a backpack, mostly with clothes and electronics. He tried a few times to start a conversation, saying things like, this isn't what I wanted and you're making a mistake. I just stared at him silently until he stopped talking. As he was about to leave, he turned to me. What about the baby? That's my child too. You told me to terminate the pregnancy, I reminded him. You don't get to play the concerned father now. He looked like I'd slapped him. I was confused, but I'd been thinking, save it for the custody hearing. I interrupted. Goodbye, Jack. After he left, I sat on the floor and cried for a solid hour. Melissa sat next to me, not saying anything, just being there. When I finally stopped, she helped me up and we ordered pizza. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next few weeks passed in a blur of appointments and preparations. My doctor recommended a therapist who specialized in pregnancy and relationship trauma. I started seeing her weekly. I finished the nursery by myself, painting the walls a soft green instead of pink or purple. My parents bought the crib, Melissa helped assemble it, and I found a secondhand rocking chair on Facebook Marketplace that fit perfectly in the corner. Jack tried contacting me a few times through mutual friends. Each time, I refused to engage. His lawyer reached out to mine and we began the tedious process of negotiating our separation. I was shocked to discover Jack had racked up credit card debt I didn't know about. Thankfully, Denise protected me from being responsible for it, even though his ability to get credit cards now seemed at odds with his previously poor credit that had kept him off our house title. I guessed his credit situation had improved since we bought the house, but he'd hidden his new spending habits from me. About 3 weeks after Jack moved out, Sally called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. I'm so sorry, she said immediately. I should have told you sooner. I just didn't know how. It's not your fault, I told her, surprising myself with how much I meant it. Jack is the one who lied to everyone. He's a mess, she said. He's staying with our parents and moping around like he's the victim. I laughed bitterly. And what about his ex? Are they back together? There was a pause. That's actually why I'm calling. His ex. She came by yesterday. Apparently Jack has been messaging her for months, telling her he's leaving you and wants to be with her. My stomach clenched. And she told him she's not interested. Actually, she's engaged to someone else and has been for over a year. She only came by to tell him to stop contacting her or she'd get a restraining order. The irony was almost too much. Jack had thrown away our marriage, our family for someone who didn't even want him. I thanked Sally for telling me and hung up. That night, I felt the baby kick especially hard, like they were trying to remind me what really mattered. I rubbed my belly and promised them again that we'd be okay. The next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Jack, using a friend's phone since I'd blocked his. I made a terrible mistake. Please let me come home. I showed it to Melissa, who was still staying with me most nights. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. Classic. His backup plan falls through, so he comes crawling back. She was right, and I knew it. But a small, weak part of me wondered if we could fix things for the baby's sake. I mentioned this to my therapist, who gave me a gentle reality check. Children don't need parents who are together, she said. They need parents who are healthy and stable. Would going back to Jack make you healthy and stable? The answer was clearly no. I deleted his message without responding. At my 6-month checkup, I found out I was having a girl. The technician asked if I wanted to share the news with the baby's father. I shook my head and asked for extra printouts of the ultrasound instead. One for my parents, one for Melissa, and one for my desk at work. Speaking of work, my boss had been surprisingly understanding about everything. I was a project manager at a marketing firm, and they agreed to let me work remotely for part of my maternity leave. That solved one of my biggest worries, how to support myself and the baby on a single income. As my belly grew bigger, so did my confidence in doing this alone. I joined a single moms group, took a childbirth class by myself, ignoring the pitying looks from the couples, and started interviewing daycare centers for when I'd eventually return to work. Then Jack's lawyer dropped a bombshell. Jack wanted joint custody. I had a complete breakdown when Denise told me. How could he abandon us? Tell me to terminate the pregnancy, and then think he deserved equal time with my daughter? It felt like a power play, a way to keep controlling me even after I'd escaped. It's a negotiation tactic, Denise assured me. He probably doesn't even want joint custody. He just wants leverage for the financial settlement. Maybe she was right, but I wasn't taking chances. I documented everything. His absence during the pregnancy, the texts, the witnesses who could testify to his behavior. I wasn't going to let him swoop in and play daddy when it suited him. Around my 7th month, Jack's mom called me. We'd always had a good relationship, and unlike Jack, she seemed genuinely excited about becoming a grandmother. I hesitated before answering, not sure if this was some ploy Jack had put her up to. I'm not calling about Jack, she said right away, as if reading my mind. I just wanted to check on you and the baby. We talked for about an hour. She never pressured me to reconcile with Jack, or even mentioned him beyond saying she was disappointed in his choices. Before hanging up, she asked if she could still be part of her granddaughter's life. I told her I'd never keep her away. The next day, a delivery truck showed up with a fully assembled bassinet, a gift from Jack's mom. The card simply said, "For my granddaughter, with love, Grandma Carol." I cried happy tears for once. At 8 months pregnant, I was huge, uncomfortable, and beyond ready to meet my daughter. I decided to name her Lily, after my grandmother. My apartment was baby-proofed, the freezer was stocked with meals, and I had a hospital bag packed by the door. Everything was ready, except for one enormous Jack-shaped problem that refused to go away. His lawyer was still pushing for joint custody, and mine was pushing back. They wanted me to agree to a settlement, but I refused to sign anything that would give Jack significant decision-making power over Lily. The stress was affecting my blood pressure, which worried my doctor. "You need to relax," she told me at my appointment. "The baby can sense your anxiety." Easy for her to say. She wasn't fighting her manipulative ex for her daughter's future. One evening, as I was folding tiny onesies and watching Netflix, someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw Jack. My first instinct was not to answer, but he kept knocking. "I know you're in there," he called. "Please, just 5 minutes." I opened the door but didn't invite him in. "What do you want?" He looked better than the last time I'd seen him, clean-shaven, clear-eyed. He was holding a small gift bag. "I brought something for the baby," he said, holding it out. I didn't take it. "You can send gifts through your lawyer," he sighed. "Look, I know I messed up, badly, but that's still my baby. I want to be in her life. You told me to get an abortion," I reminded him. "I was scared and stupid," he admitted. "I regret it every day." I crossed my arms. "And what about your ex? Does she know you're here begging to come back to your pregnant wife?" His face fell. "You heard about that? Sally told me everything. How you've been messaging her for months. How she had to threaten you with a restraining order to leave her alone." I shook my head in disgust. "And now that she's rejected you, you suddenly want your family back? How convenient." "It's not like that," he protested. protested, but his eyes couldn't meet mine. I made a mistake. I got caught up in the past, but I'm seeing clearly now. No, I said firmly. You're seeing that your options ran out. I'm not your backup plan, Jack. And my daughter isn't either. He flinched at the words, my daughter. Our daughter, he corrected. Whether you like it or not, I'm her father, and I'm going to be part of her life. Something in his tone made my skin crawl. It wasn't concern for the baby. It was possession. Control. The same things he tried to exercise over me for years. Leave the gift and go, I said, suddenly tired. Any other communication can go through our lawyers. He set the bag down and stepped back. This isn't over. You can't keep my child from me. After he left, I examined the gift. A small silver bracelet with a heart charm. Pretty but completely impractical for a newborn. Classic Jack. Always thinking about appearances rather than reality. I called Denise the next morning and told her about Jack's visit. She wasn't happy I'd spoken to him directly, but said his behavior could actually help our case. She suggested installing a security camera at my door, just in case. The camera arrived 2 days later, along with a no-contact order Denise had filed on my behalf. Jack wasn't allowed to come to my home or workplace without prior arrangement through our lawyers. It wasn't a full restraining order, but it gave me some peace of mind. As I neared my due date, I started having Braxton Hicks contractions. Practice contractions that my doctor assured me were normal. Still, each time they happened, I panicked a little. What if I went into labor and had no one to drive me to the hospital? Melissa promised to keep her phone on 24/7. My parents gave me a spare key to their house just 15 minutes away. My neighbor, a retired nurse named Pat, offered to be on call too. I had people. I wasn't alone. 2 weeks before my due date, I opened my mailbox to find a formal-looking envelope. Inside was a petition for a paternity test and temporary custody arrangement. Jack was escalating the legal battle. I called Denise in tears. Can he do this? Can he take her from me? Absolutely not, she assured me. No judge is going to give temporary custody to a father who hasn't been involved in the pregnancy and told the mother to terminate. This is just more posturing. But it scared me enough that I decided to stay with my parents until the baby arrived. I packed a bag, asked Melissa to check on my apartment every few days, and moved into my old bedroom. That's where I was when my water broke, 3 days before my due date. My mom drove me to the hospital while my dad called Melissa. The contractions started coming faster than I expected, and by the time we arrived, I was already 4 centimeters dilated. This baby's in a hurry, the nurse commented as she hooked me up to monitors. I had imagined this moment so differently, with Jack by my side, holding my hand, telling me I could do it. Instead, my mom took one side and Melissa the other, forming a wall of support that turned out to be stronger than anything Jack could have provided. The labor was fast and intense. 6 hours after my water broke, Lily came screaming into the world, her tiny fists clenched like she was ready to fight. The moment they placed her on my chest, I knew I'd made the right decision. I would do anything to protect this perfect little person. As required by law, Jack was notified of Lily's birth. He sent flowers to the hospital room, which felt like a performative gesture for the benefit of the nurses rather than genuine sentiment. I donated them to the children's ward. When it was time to fill out the birth certificate, I hesitated over the father's section. Denise had advised me that leaving it blank would complicate the legal process later, so I reluctantly put Jack's name. But under baby's surname, I wrote my own last name, not his. It was a small act of defiance that felt enormously significant. The hospital stay was a blur of feedings, diaper changes, and visitors. My parents practically lived in the waiting room. Melissa brought me real food when the hospital meals were inedible. Even Jack's mom came, keeping her distance from her son who showed up exactly once, hovered awkwardly for 20 minutes, then left. Going home with Lily was terrifying and exhilarating. I set up her bassinet next to my bed and spent the first night just watching her breathe. This tiny human depended on me completely. The responsibility was enormous, but so was the love I felt. The first few weeks passed in a sleep-deprived haze. Breastfeeding was harder than I expected, but a lactation consultant helped me figure it out. I mastered the art of one-handed eating and learned that showering was a luxury now. Jack's lawyer continued sending letters, now demanding a visitation schedule. Denise advised me to agree to supervised visits at first, not because Jack was dangerous, but because he had no experience with newborns. We arranged for him to visit once a week at my parents' house, with my mom present. The first visit was awkward. Jack showed up with more gifts, clothes that were too big, toys that were too advanced. He held Lily stiffly, like she might break, and seemed relieved when she started crying, and I took her back. He left after less than an hour. He's doing this for show, my mom said after he left. He doesn't actually want to be a father. I wasn't so sure. Something about the way Jack looked at Lily worried me. Not with love exactly, but with ownership. Like she was a possession he wasn't willing to give up, even if he didn't really want her. As the weeks passed, his visits became more confident. He'd bring his mom sometimes, which actually made things easier. She'd show him how to hold Lily properly, how to burp her, how to change a diaper. I started to think maybe this could work. We could co-parent civilly for Lily's sake. Then came the bombshell. I was at home, finally getting the hang of our new routine, when Melissa called in a panic. Have you seen Jack's Instagram? She asked. I hadn't. I'd unfollowed him months ago and had barely looked at social media since Lily was born. He posted photos of Lily, she said, with some caption about daddy's little princess finally home where she belongs. My blood ran cold. I pulled up his profile and there they were. Pictures of my daughter that I hadn't even seen. Pictures he must have taken during his visits without me noticing. And the comments. People congratulating him, saying what a great dad he was going to be, asking when the baby was moving in with him permanently. It was all for show. All for his image. Just like our entire relationship had been. I immediately called Denise. He's creating a false narrative, I explained, making it look like he has Lily all the time, like he's the primary caregiver. She understood the implications immediately. He's building a case for custody. We need to document everything and limit his access to photos. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Jack's endgame. Was he really trying to get custody of Lily? Or was this just another manipulation tactic? Either way, I needed to protect my daughter. The next day, I drafted new ground rules for Jack's visits. No photos without my permission, no social media posts, no taking Lily out of the house. I sent them through Denise, who added legal language making it clear these weren't suggestions. Jack's response came through his lawyer. My client has a right to document his time with his daughter and share it with family and friends. These restrictions are unreasonable and will be contested in court. The battle lines were drawn. I knew then that this wasn't going to be an easy or quick resolution. Jack might have given up on getting me back, but he wasn't giving up on controlling part of my life through Lily. I looked down at my sleeping daughter, her tiny hand wrapped around my finger. I won't let him use you, I whispered. I promise. I was so mad I couldn't even see straight. Jack was playing games with our daughter's life just to make himself look good on social media. After pacing around the living room for about 20 minutes, I called Sally. I needed someone who knew Jack better than anyone to help me understand what the hell he was trying to do. He's always been like this, Sally admitted after I explained the situation. When we were kids, he'd break my toys, then cry to our parents that I was the one who did it. He can't stand looking bad to other people. That fit with everything I knew about Jack. Our entire relationship had been built on appearances. I remembered how he'd always post these super romantic anniversary tributes on Instagram, but then forget our anniversary in real life, or how he'd buy me expensive gifts when his friends were around, but complain about money when we were alone. It was always about how things looked, not how they actually were. What should I do? I asked her, feeling totally lost. Document everything, she said firmly. Every time he's late for a visit, every gift he doesn't bring, every diaper he doesn't change, build your own case. It was solid advice. I thanked her and hung up, then immediately started a detailed log in my phone. I added all the previous visits from memory, noting how long Jack stayed and what he actually did with Lily. The picture wasn't flattering. Most visits lasted under an hour, and he spent most of that time either on his phone or letting his mom take over. The next scheduled visit was 2 days away. I spent that time preparing, downloading a voice recording app on my phone, and setting up a small camera in the corner of my parents' living room. I wasn't being paranoid. I was protecting my daughter. When Jack arrived, I was ready. He walked in with his usual gift bag of impractical baby stuff. This time a pair of tiny designer sneakers that Lily wouldn't wear for at least a year. Hey, he said casually, like we were still friends. How's my princess today? I bristled at my princess, but kept my face neutral. She's doing fine. Just fed and changed, so she should be happy for a while. I handed Lily to him, and he immediately held her out for a selfie. I cleared my throat. Remember the new rules, Jack. No photos without permission. He rolled his eyes. Come on, it's just for me. I'm not posting it. No photos, I repeated said firmly. He looked like he wanted to argue, but instead awkwardly shifted Lily to his shoulder. She immediately started fussing. My mom, who was sitting nearby pretending to read a magazine, watched with hawk eyes. So, Jack said after a few minutes of awkward silence, I've been thinking about the custody arrangement. Here it comes, I thought. I glanced at my phone, making sure the recording was still going. I think it's time Lily starts spending nights with me, he continued. I've set up a nursery at my new place and everything. I almost laughed. The idea of Jack handling middle-of-the-night feedings and diaper blowouts was absurd. He could barely handle a fussy baby for an hour in broad daylight. She's exclusively breastfed, Jack. She can't spend nights away from me yet. He frowned. You could pump, or switch to formula. I'm not changing my feeding plan to accommodate your visitation schedule, I said calmly. My doctor recommends breastfeeding for at least 6 months. After that, we can reevaluate. That's not fair, he said, his voice rising slightly. I have rights too. Lily started crying in earnest now, probably sensing the tension. Jack looked panicked and immediately held her out to me. She needs you, he said, practically shoving her into my arms. I took Lily and soothed her quickly. Jack watched, a strange expression on his face, part envy, part relief, part something else I couldn't identify. This isn't working, he said suddenly. These supervised visits in your parents' house. It's weird and uncomfortable. It's what's best for Lily right now, I replied. She needs consistency and familiar surroundings. What she needs is her father, he snapped. In his home, not being watched like some criminal. My mom put down her magazine. Jack, maybe you should take a break. Go get some fresh air. He glared at her but stomped out to the porch anyway. I used the moment to nurse Lily, who had calmed down but was still fussy. When Jack came back, he seemed more composed. I'm sorry, he said, not sounding particularly sorry. This is just frustrating. I feel like you're keeping her from me. I'm not keeping her from you. You're here right now, aren't you? I gestured around the room. But Lily is a baby, not a prop for your Instagram. She needs stable, consistent care from people who put her needs first. And you think I don't put her needs first? He challenged. I thought about his demand for overnight visits, his insistence on taking photos against my wishes, his complete lack of interest in her actual care. No, Jack, I don't think you do. The visit ended shortly after that. Jack left without even saying goodbye to Lily, slamming the front door hard enough to wake her up. I spent the next 20 minutes calming her down again. That night, I listened to the recording of our conversation and felt a chill. Jack hadn't once asked about Lily's health, her development, her feeding schedule, nothing that a concerned parent would want to know. It was all about his rights, his access, his feelings. Lily was just a pawn in whatever game he was playing. I sent the recording to Denise, along with notes about the visit. She called me the next morning. This is exactly what we need, she said. Keep doing what you're doing. The more evidence we have that he's more concerned with his rights than the baby's welfare, the stronger our case. For the next 3 visits, I followed the same pattern. Record everything, take notes, stay calm no matter what Jack said or did. His behavior got progressively more erratic. 1 week he'd be super attentive, clearly performing for my mom's benefit. The next he'd be distant and annoyed when Lily cried or needed a diaper change. Then came the visit that changed everything. Jack showed up with his mother and a woman I didn't recognize. She looked professional, with a neat bun and a clipboard. This is Angela, Jack said with a smug smile. She's a family assessment specialist. I hired her to observe our visits and provide an expert opinion for the court. I was blindsided. Denise had warned me that Jack might try something like this, but I hadn't expected it so soon. I calmly greeted Angela while texting Denise under the table. Within 10 minutes, Denise called me back. Don't let this woman in your house, she said immediately. She's not court appointed and you haven't agreed to an evaluation. Tell her to leave. I relayed this to Angela, who looked embarrassed. I was told this was an agreed upon assessment, she said, glancing at Jack. Well, it's not, I replied firmly. I'm happy to participate in a court-ordered evaluation with a neutral specialist, but not someone hired unilaterally by my ex. Jack's face turned red. You're just afraid she'll see what a controlling witch you are. His mother looked mortified. Jack, that's enough. Angela quietly excused herself, saying she couldn't proceed without both parents' consent. Jack followed her outside, yelling about how I was sabotaging him. His mother stayed behind, looking defeated. I'm so sorry, she said quietly. I had no idea he was planning this. He told me Angela was a friend coming to visit. I believed her. Carol had always been honest with me, even when it meant criticizing her son. It's not your fault, I assured her. When Jack returned, he was seething. You've turned everyone against me, he accused. My mother, my sister, even my friends think I'm the bad guy here. You did that all by yourself, I replied. He looked at Lily sleeping in her bassinet, then back at me. Fine, you win. Keep her. I'm done fighting. My heart leapt, but I kept my face neutral. What do you mean? I mean, I'm dropping the custody case. You can have full custody. I'll pay the child support. Whatever. He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. It's not worth all this drama. I should have been relieved, but something felt off. Jack never gave up this easily, especially not when his ego was involved. Why the sudden change of heart? He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. Maybe I realized I'm not cut out for this dad thing. Maybe I just want my life back. Does it matter? You're getting what you wanted. It mattered a lot, actually, but I just nodded, not wanting to push my luck. We'll have the lawyers drop an agreement. Jack left without saying goodbye to Lily. Again, his mother lingered behind, looking troubled. Is he serious? I asked her when Jack was out of earshot. About dropping the custody case? She sighed heavily. I don't know. He was on the phone all morning with someone. When I asked who, he just said an old friend. Then he suddenly wanted to bring this Angela person to the visit. An old friend. My stomach clenched. Emily? Carol nodded sadly. I think so. He's been obsessed with her opinion ever since she rejected him, always wondering what would make her see him differently. And suddenly it clicked. Jack's custody push, the Instagram posts, bringing a professional observer. It was all for Emily's benefit. He wanted to look like father of the year to impress her. But when it got hard, when it required actual effort and commitment, he bailed, just like he had with our marriage. I called Denise immediately after Jack and Carol left. I explained what happened and my suspicions about why. She listened carefully. Let's proceed cautiously, she advised. Draft an agreement giving you primary physical custody with very limited supervised visitation for him. Make sure it includes strict rules about social media posts. If he's serious about backing down, he'll sign it. If not, we're ready for court. 2 days later, Lily and I returned to my apartment. It felt good to be home, just the two of us. I set up her bassinet next to my bed again and spent the evening getting reacquainted with my space. Melissa came over with takeout and wine. Just 1 glass for me since I was still breastfeeding. We celebrated the possibility that this nightmare might actually be ending. Do you think he's really giving up? She asked skeptically. I sighed, looking down at Lily sleeping peacefully in my arms. I don't know, but even if he is, I doubt it's permanent. Men like Jack don't just walk away from what they consider their property. Well, he can try to come back, but next time you'll be ready, she said, raising her glass in a toast. The next morning, Denise called with news. Jack's lawyer had reached out, saying his client was amenable to a settlement with primary custody going to me. They wanted minimal child support and weekend visitation once Lily was older. It's a starting point, Denise said. We can work with this. Over the next few weeks, our lawyers negotiated back and forth. I held firm on my requirements. Limited supervised visitation until Lily was at least a year old, restrictions on social media posts, and standard child support based on Jack's income. It took time, but eventually we reached an agreement that Denise felt protected Lily's interests. The day I signed the papers, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Jack had given up surprisingly easily in the end. According to his lawyer, he decided to focus on his career for now. I didn't care about his reasons as long as Lily was safe. To my surprise, Jack didn't show up for his next scheduled visit, or the one after that. Carol came and said, explaining that Jack was busy. I didn't mind. She was wonderful with Lily, and I genuinely enjoyed her company. After a month of no-shows, I got a text from Sally. Thought you should know. Jack moved to Chicago. Got a job offer he couldn't refuse. Didn't tell anyone until he was already gone. I stared at the message for a long time, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Relief was the strongest. Jack was gone, hundreds of miles away. But there was sadness too, for the father Lily would never really know. Later that night, as I fed Lily before bed, I told her the truth, or at least a version of it she could understand someday. That her father had loved her in his own way, but wasn't ready to be a dad, that it wasn't her fault, that she had me, and grandparents, and aunts, and so many people who adored her. We're going to be okay, I whispered, stroking her soft hair. Just you and me. And for the first time since that positive pregnancy test almost a year ago, I truly believed it.